3, 2.
Welcome back to 755 is Real, presented by Topps. Check out Topps Project 70, celebrating 70 years of Topps baseball cards. I'm David O'Brien, Braves writer for The Athletic, and I'm with former Braves reliever, my co-host Eric O'Flaherty. What's going on, Eric? How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm real good after that game last night.
What a game. Damn. Just when you know, the people that complain about baseball being slow or long or whatever, you get a game like that was almost 4 hours and it was phenomenal. God.
I saw somebody complaining about it, some writer or something online, and it's like, if you weren't entertained by these games and these games were too long for you,
You're covering the wrong sport.
baseball is just not for you. Because
Yeah.
I watched more baseball this week or the last 5 days than I've probably watched in years, just cramming game after game after game.
Yeah.
And they were all good. There was barely any that were spread out, and it was like back and forth, big hits. Those games fly by for me, even if they're 3 hours and 30 versus a blowout early.
I think the difference in what made last night's game so great, even though it was almost 4 hours, was the fact that no team was ever the Braves never had a lead till Freddie's home run, but they were never down by more than 2 runs. And that makes a big difference. When it's 5-0, like a couple of these games have been in the 4th inning, you feel like, okay, maybe they come back, but they're not showing any signs of it. So those games can drag, or if you don't have a vested interest in one of the two teams, they can get boring. But last night's game wasn't like that. It was 2 runs. And even though it felt like, Milwaukee had a pretty good lead, with their pitching staff, you knew that the Braves, if you follow this team, can get back in it like that with all the power they got in the lineup.
It was still, watching those games and how tough runs were to come by. It's still, when Milwaukee got that 2 spot, got up by 2, you felt like, shit, maybe they don't get back in this game. And, credit for the team for not feeling like that, because they gave up 2 and got them right back twice.
Milwaukee, I think, was 0 for 20 with runners in scoring position to that point. And the Braves weren't much better. They were like 2 for 23 or something. So, both pitching staffs did a great job. I just thought I thought Milwaukee had a disappointing performance offensively, obviously, but I thought at least as much of that had to do with the Braves pitching staff, because we've said the Braves 3 deep in the starting rotation are as good as anybody right now, with Ian Anderson pitching the way he is. He was terrific. And Max Fried's the best pitcher in the game since the All-Star break, certainly since the beginning of August. So you add Charlie to that. I think those 3 can handle anybody's 3. Anybody's.
Yeah. And the defense too. The defense
has been phenomenal.
Some of the
Dansby last night,
made.
That game he had last night.
Yeah.
Craig Counsell said that was special. That was a special game. What he went out of his way to note Dansby in his post game.
He changed the game.
Yeah.
That play he made in the 5th, I think it was, after Kane hit that laser in the gap, or in the 6 hole, Dansby laid out for it. If Dansby doesn't make that play, they probably let Peralta hit and he stays in the game. And so that changed the whole game right there. They scored 2 in the bottom, just stuff like that kind of goes unnoticed. But if he doesn't make that play, who knows what their starter does, and if he gets to stay in the game, because he was only at 57 pitches.
Crawford probably win the Gold Glove this year, I would think, but Dansby is right there, man. I don't know of 2 or 3 other shortstops that are better than him in the majors. Is that good?
They both
hit defensively, I'm talking about.
Yeah, and they both have that knack for when their team needs a big play and you feel that momentum shifting. Crawford got up and caught a liner off Betts the other day that kind of killed a rally.
Yeah.
The 2 plays Dansby made yesterday, those are deflating. When you think you got something going, you get 2nd and 3rd, no outs, and he lays out in the hole and picks one, keeps the runner at 3rd.
And how about the barehanded play that Austin Riley made?
That was sick too.
Was that last night or the night before? It all blends together. That was phenomenal. That was a Chipper Jones play and then some. That barehanded play.
Yeah.
He's getting that down now. He's come so far defensively. Last night it was just a terrific game, and the atmosphere at Truist Park, man. I don't want to hear anybody ragging on Braves fans anymore for a while, because they had that stigma, or that, fair or not, they had that reputation for a while for not coming out, at least for the first round, because they went so many times to the playoffs that they wouldn't even come out for the first round. And if it was day games, which they often got the slot, they wouldn't come out. And Braves fans would be like, how are we going to get the day? None of that was even relevant in this series, because they had a game at Monday at 1:00 and the place was sold out, and it was loud. And then last night was even louder, over 40 grand, over 40,000 both days. And last night was loud, man, especially after that umpire's call or no call. When they called New York to check on the replay, and we're told that's not reviewable. How embarrassing. The umpires the crew chiefs didn't even know that the rule, that it was unreviewable. Otherwise they wouldn't have put the headphones on to call New York. They thought they had to at least clarify whether it was or not.
I didn't know it,
Dumb rule. I didn't either. Nobody did.
There's been a couple rules in this postseason I think need to be revisited. That play in Boston was, it changed the whole game. Kiermaier hit the double.
Off
Renfroe over the fence.
That's got to be changed.
That was the whole series right there. And then yesterday, it felt like another infield fly rule type of thing. Because if you lose yesterday and go back to Milwaukee, it's going to be a tough series. And
people are going to be talking about that play forever. Thank God they won't be.
Yeah. And the crowd started, luckily, they came up and scored anyway, but
yeah, they got 2 runs in that inning, or otherwise,
big trouble. But I don't know why that's not reviewable.
Yeah, the rule for anybody that wasn't watching, or if I don't know how well it was explained on TV, because I don't watch the TV when I'm in the press box.
They figured it out on TV.
Oh, they did. Yeah. So a catch play can be reviewed when it's in the outfield, but not in the infield. And apparently, foul territory in the infield is infield, even if it involves the catcher or whatever. Dumb rule. I think that probably. The reasoning for that is that there's 3 umpires in the infield and there's 1 in the outfield.
One of them sees it.
Right. But those umpires were blocked last night just because the placement of the players involved. They didn't really have a good view of it. And I thought the replay clearly showed the ball at least caught some dirt along with his glove before it bounced up in his glove. I thought it was pretty obvious, but it didn't matter because it was not reviewable. So
I couldn't tell live, but once you see a few replays, it's pretty obvious it catches some dirt, stops spinning, and pops up into his glove.
Right.
But even line drive in the 6-hole or up the middle or something, shortstop lays out, maybe he traps it, maybe he doesn't. If you watch this series, you saw every single defensive play had an impact.
Right.
Why wouldn't you, if you got replay, why wouldn't you utilize it and get that call right?
Well, the whole flawed replay, we've gone over this ad nauseum, but it's just the usage of it is terrible. In concept, it could help baseball, but they got to clean it up. And I think one of the obvious things is, let's review any damn time it would help to review. Just make any call reviewable, and the umpires decide whether they're going to review it or not.
Yeah.
It seems obvious to me. If it could help to review it, then review it and do it quickly.
Well, and I think you shouldn't, the umpire's call shouldn't have any weight either.
No. And that's the other thing is the umpires that are sitting in New York,
shouldn't know.
Whether it means don't watch the games or whatever. You don't watch until they send you the video of the play. And you sometimes you're going to be able to tell what the call was by the reactions of whoever's in the camera. But for the most part, I think it would help a lot not to know what the umpire's call was, Yeah,
because they protect those a lot. And also, if the ump looks up and sees an obvious play on the scoreboard, when they show the replay, they should just hang that thing up and call them out. There's so many of them.
Exactly.
You look up there and the whole stadium knows what the call should be.
Right. And you're going to go the other way.
And they're on the phone for another minute 15,
waiting
whether they get it right or wrong. Yeah.
And the other thing is, if it's impossible to have that crew in New York not see the play or know the call, then make sure it's an independent body. Then is that too hard? Does it have to be major league umpires? It can be former umpires. It can be people that, that to me, that's not that hard. You don't even have to have umpires making those things. It doesn't take an umpire to look at a call, know the rules, and tell you what that thing was. Umpires have a set of skills. They're there to umpire games. That doesn't mean that an average person that knows the rule book can't look at the play and make the call just as well as an umpire could on the replay review. You know what I mean? But anyway, that's another. We don't need to discuss that right now.
I'm glad we don't have to talk about that too much today, because it didn't hurt the team.
But I tell you what, that was as loud. Speaking of terrible umpire calls, that was as loud as I've heard an Atlanta home crowd booing, at least since the infield fly rule that you were involved in or were in uniform for. That was as loud as that. What was that, 9 years ago?
Yeah, in 2012.
That was that loud, or at least that loud. And they're to be commended because nothing came on the field. I was kind of shocked.
I was waiting.
it was almost like Dansby's when he kind of browbeat people earlier. I thought people were going to take that the wrong way, you know, and say, I'll throw more shit on the field next time it happens. Nothing came on the field. I didn't see one thing land on the field.
Yeah, that was I was kind of waiting for that to happen. That's still one of the craziest scenes I've ever seen in my life was because I pitched the inning before, looking up and just seeing it just rained garbage and it was hitting people in the lower deck. I saw a shoe flying.
Yeah.
I was like, man, it was kind of scary because my family was in the stands.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you just, if
bottles
you look
are
around
over their heads,
you're seeing kids get hit in the head with a full water bottle and, you know, it wasn't going to stop. So I'm glad nothing like that happened yesterday.
I'm thinking maybe the scenario, the whole game for the importance of it. It's not a wild card game.
Yeah.
It's not a game you feel like you're going to lose or if things are going bad at that point. It's still a game you're totally invested in and you've got the lead in the series and it's the second round and people paid more for these tickets, quite frankly. So I think you maybe have a little bit of a different crowd there on hand for this and a little more seriousness about the game itself rather than just being, I'm wasted. Now I'm pissed and I'm going to rain.
Yeah. Well, it was earlier in the game too. You know, the wild card game was like right after they cut off.
And it was a 5 o'clock game.
Yeah.
And not a 7 o'clock game.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, a lot of people came there from work or, you know, not many people were drinking all afternoon before that game started, you know. So anyway, the Braves win the NLDS 3-1 against a Brewers team that was favored going in. They were favored. They were, you know, they were the home team and they had 3 all-star pitchers.
Yeah.
And the Braves did well against all of them.
Yep.
You know, the Braves got better pitching overall. They had incredible starting pitching and the bullpen. I just can't even say enough how much they answered the bell because they've been maligned all season and they go in and that bullpen, at least 4 deep, is really solid right now. And do you realize they didn't give up any runs in the series except for the 2 that Inoue gave up? And he's not even a reliever. It's his first bullpen appearance since April 3rd. The other relievers gave up nothing. Chavez gave up the hit that run goes to Charlie. That was an inherited runner. And that's it. The big guys, the big 3 were just about perfect.
Yeah. And, you know,
and Minter last night.
Minter, that was the guy I was going to point out. He came in and he pitched yesterday like he pitched in the World Series when he got that start. He pitched like an
NLCS.
The NLCS, yeah. He pitched like an animal yesterday. You know, I think it's cool to see a guy come out and you don't want to get ahead of yourself and fist pump and yell after the first strikeout, but it is kind of it's cool to see how invested these guys are and how much adrenaline they have and how much they're showing it. And he was on another level yesterday.
We'll find out. They're going back, and it's the second year in a row they made it to the NLCS, and last year they had to do it with an extra round. So, I mean, the Braves have turned a corner, and people that were all, you know, been shitting on them about how they can't get past the first round or they'll choke in the postseason. This second year in a row they're going to the NLCS, man, and 4 years in a row they've won the division. It's about time for people to start realizing this is a new team than it was. It's a new entirely new culture. These guys don't have any of the baggage from all those losses. Freddie was about the only one that was even around for those anymore. And Freddie's not that kind of guy anyway to have any kind of a negative attitude about anything. But these newcomers, man, they don't give a shit that the Braves lost 6-7 years ago in the first round. And, you know, and they had this long streak where they couldn't win a playoff series. They could care less about that. You got guys in here, young guys with swagger, older veterans like Rosario with swagger. I mean, these are some guys that feel good about themselves and about this team and this chemistry. They have more fun than anybody else in the majors, I think, right now, or at least as much fun. And these guys love each other, man. They really like each other. And you can tell. Like Freddie hits that home run, and every guy had the look on his face like he had hit the home run.
Yeah. And it feels like that every time somebody does something on the team. If you look at the dugout when, you know, say Rosario got that hit up the middle, you can just see the whole team, you know, pulling for each other. And obviously, you know, you'd think that was common, but I still remember this clip we have of Hinsky hitting a home run in the playoffs in 2010. Melky's on deck and Melky just kind of watches it, taps taps his bat on the ground, donut comes off, and he walks up to the plate like it was, you know, a home run in June.
Right.
But he'd been with the Yankees, and he was, you know, I think maybe taking some time to turn the page on that, and maybe not feeling like as big a part of the group. But, you know, that's your responsibility as a team too, is to make a guy feel like family. And I think they do a really good job with everybody that comes in now of embracing them and making them feel like family, because you could tell how hard these guys are pulling for each other.
Yeah, I mean, the 4 outfielders that they brought in July have been as big a part of this team as just about anybody, and they all act like they've been there for the entire year since spring training. I mean, you would never know that any of them had not been there since day one. I mean, and they're some of the most impactful guys on this team.
Yeah.
We didn't get into Soler yet, to mention the fact they win yesterday after losing Jorge Soler, their leadoff hitter, who's been phenomenal with the Braves since the trade. They lose him 2 or 3 hours before the game to COVID-19 test. So you're all of a sudden shifting your lineup. You got to put Dansby at leadoff. You got to put Heredia in the outfield. You know, I mean, you're shifting everything in the last 2 hours before the game. And Soler has been really good, having that huge dude step up from first pitch as a pitcher on his toes, you know? I mean, that's just another obstacle, but in so many ways, yesterday was like the season itself. I wrote that today, between the adversity they had with Soler, then falling behind by 2 runs twice in the game. It's kind of things they've done all year, man.
Yeah, they've been up against it all year. I saw Freddie comment about losing Soler, and he was like, it's just kind of par for the course. You know, they've just had unexpected hurdles thrown at them the whole season, and it hasn't slowed them down.
They didn't get over 500 until August.
Yeah.
And now look at this team. They've played over 600 ball for the last 2 months of the season, and they're a different team than they were for the first 4 months. I mean, it's almost irrelevant now. You know, you look at the 88 wins, but it's like, it doesn't really matter, because that's not how they've played since the beginning of August, since they got all these 4 outfielders. It's just been a different team.
No. Yeah. And I think that experience accumulates too. You know, this is a group that's been there 3, 4, 5 years, you know, you going and playing in these big games and getting used to it and learning how to win. If you look at the Dodgers, it took them a while of being really, really good to finally get that World Series.
Yeah.
And I was watching that playoff series between the Astros and White Sox yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, the whole series, but I was just thinking, you know, the Astros have just done this so many times.
Yeah.
They're going to win this series.
They have a different look about them.
And big moments too. You know, big moments, they stay calm and have good at bats, and you could see the White Sox pressing. And I think I saw it with the Brewers too, with the group. You know, when they got runners in scoring position, that bats weren't as good.
Yeah,
you could see them pressing. And I think having a guy like Jock, who obviously had the big 3-run homer, but guys that have been in those situations, been there, done that, and understand how to keep it the same. Jock says he treats every at bat like a regular season. You know, every moment like I've already done it, and it's just another baseball game. And it's easy to say, but having experience makes that so much easier to do. And the Braves got quite a few of those guys now.
And having those guys that have been to it 4 times, the playoffs 4 times, and get to the LCS, get within 1 win of going there last year. They blew 2-0 and 3-1 leads against the Dodgers in the LCS. But going through that, and then you add the ultimate postseason pitcher from the past 5 years in Charlie Morton, and you add the ultimate pinch hit, big moment hitter from the past 8 years in Jock Peterson. You had both of those to a team that had gone to the postseason with a lot of these same guys going to the postseason several times, some of them 4 times. Yeah. I mean, this is a whole different outlook going in the postseason and each of these games, and how they take being behind in a playoff game. It's just totally different. And I saw the same thing with that Astros White Sox. I know they got La Russa, but at almost 80, I mean, it's hard for him to, I think, exude all that confidence. And I've been there before, to all these all his players who've not been there or haven't enjoyed success in a postseason. I think that Brewers would be a lot different team if Yelich was what he was 2 years ago, just because they could send their guy. We got one of the best 2 players in the National League going up there to hit right now. When he stepped up there with 2 outs in the 9th inning, I had none of that feeling. None of that.
And somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to get that big hit. If you watch the Red Sox series and the Braves series, 2 guys that I felt like every run the Dodgers were on were getting these random big hits. Maybe they didn't have a great series. Maybe they hit 210 for the series, but Kike Hernandez and Jock, It was like they were always finding their way into the highlights with a big homer that tied the game in the 7th or go ahead knock in the 12th. You know, just randomly. It's not always the superstars, but if you got those guys that can act like they've done it before and be comfortable and have good at bats there, it could be anybody on the team. And the Braves are having more and more of those guys that have been in the situations. Rosario, he didn't look intimidated at all yesterday when he came up. And if he doesn't get that knock, he ties it up with that knock. If he strikes out right there, what a momentum shift. Man. Yeah, it did.
That got him going.
That's what it takes. It takes somebody's got to do it. And for the Brewers, nobody did it. And if Yelich is Yelich, he gets those big knocks, you know, maybe it changes the whole series.
You look at the bench, you look at the pinch hitters they've got this year compared to last year. I mean, early on they had Sandoval was doing it, but I'm talking about postseason this year compared to last year. Look at the guys they're bringing in. The biggest hits so far have been Freddie's home run, obviously last night, Jock Peterson's pinch hit 3-run homer, which was all the offense in a 3-0 win. And Eddie Rosario's pinch hit 2-run hit last night with 2 out. Those are the biggest hits in the series so far. So
Darno got a big hit. He's been there before.
Darno shoots one up the right field line. I mean, that was some piece of hitting there. I mean, and don't forget last night, people can't overlook, even though Jock Peterson gets his first start. And did he go hitless or get a hit? But anyway, that beating out that double play, hustling, that was huge to keep that inning going. I mean, that was, if he gets thrown out there, they don't get that run in. It's totally different game. So him really busting it out of the box
for him yesterday too.
Well, Snip started him because he's 3 for 3 with 2 home runs as a pinch hitter in the first 3 games. And Snip was talking about how it was great because he kept waiting to get him at bats against right-handers. So what does he do? They face 3 right-handed starters in the first 3 games. He doesn't start. Then they face a left-handed starter in game 4. He starts him. But that was only because he'd done so much. It was like Snip was looking like, why aren't you starting this guy?
Yeah. So I agree with that, though. I mean, they
weren't good matchups for him for the first time.
No, but he still battled, you know, beating out that double play, moving the runner into scoring position, you know, stuff like that. It matters.
And now with Soler out, I'm starting him against a right-hander with Soler out. You know, you got good options with him and Rosario. You know, thankfully, more and more. I mean, Alex Anthopoulos, we've already said, could be executive of the year, but now look how important those outfielders are that he got. My God, you know, now with Soler out, we don't know if he's going to be back during the LCS. It's probably, I was told last night, it's probably going to be about 10 days because he tested positive. It wasn't just tracing or whatever. You know, the minimum's 5, but it sounded to me like he's going to be 10. So
you can't bank on him at all.
No.
You know, like what the guys have been through where they pass, fail, pass. You gotta pass 2 in a row.
You just hope it doesn't. You're just thankful so far it hasn't affected anybody else. That could be a disaster
because they're all right by each other. But
they don't have to test them unless they're symptomatic. If you got vaccinated, that's the difference.
Okay, so just say you don't have symptoms.
And fortunately, they are really close to 100% vaccination among their players. Some teams weren't. They weren't even at 85. That kind of team right now would be screwed because everybody has been close to him, like you said, would be contact tracing. So it's going to pay off to have been a team close to 100% vaccination.
Well, I was wondering how that'd play out too if you did. You know, you just lose the playoff series, or everything's got to wait, or you have to fill in with all.
You have to fill in
AAA dudes that are
with other guys on your 40-man roster.
Guys that are playing Xbox right now got to crank it up and come try to win a series against the Dodgers or Giants.
It would be embarrassing. Well, that's why you have up to 9 on the taxi squad right now too, because they know that it's not like a normal year where you could lose multiple guys to something like that. It's not, you don't have 9 on there because of injuries, regular injuries. But so they've and if he doesn't go out and do that, you got Christian Pache in the starting lineup now.
Yeah.
Who is going to give you, who so far has given you nothing offensively, you know?
Yeah.
So the difference being able to put in a Rosario or a Peterson in the lineup and not hardly lose anything, it's pretty huge, man.
Yeah.
By the time he goes out and gets 4 outfielders, we're like, Jesus, man, why don't you go out and get some more relievers? Why don't you get 4 outfielders? Well, it's paid off. We could have used another reliever too, but so they're going back to the LCS. We won't know until late Thursday, actually early Friday morning, where they're playing and who they're playing, because that Dodger Giant game and now the atmosphere on that thing that's going to be Thursday night, game 5 doesn't start till 9:00 though, East Coast time. So if the Giants win,
I would start it at 8.
Right. But it's 6 o'clock out there. So, but I would too. Yeah. I think it's 9 though. Prime time, they want prime time out there, but, so TV ratings run everything. But so if the Giants win, the Braves will hop on a plane Friday and fly to San Francisco, and the Giants will be the host of the LCS. If the Dodgers win, the Braves are going to be the host. They don't go anywhere until, the middle games. But because the Dodgers, who won 18 more games than the Braves, I think they won 106, right? The Braves won 88. The Dodgers will be on the road for the LCS because a wild card team cannot be the host until the World Series. If the Dodgers get to the World Series, their 106 wins are going to trump anybody in the AL. I mean, if they face Houston, for instance, it's going to be Dodgers will have home field, but a wild card team cannot have home field advantage in any round until the World Series.
That's tough. Winning 106 and still
flying traveling to play Atlanta.
I don't know who I'd rather play. I mean, I guess you'd root for home field at least because that makes a big difference. But both those teams.
Braves were a great road team this year. I know the playoff atmosphere is totally different than a regular season, but they were a great road team this year. And I think that's going to help them. I think it helped them in Milwaukee. I mean, they all year they won in hostile environments, and some places were really loud hostile environments too. I mean, like it was great crowds in Philly and some of the games in New York that meant a lot down the stretch. When they went to Dodger Stadium, they had huge crowds there. San Francisco, they won that game on Sunday. Big crowds out in San Francisco this year. So I think that's going to help them. Me, as far as the matchups, I look at it as they've played like shit at Dodger Stadium for a decade. I mean, they just do not play well at Dodger Stadium. But more importantly, the Dodgers bullpen to me is kind of a deciding factor. It's so deep.
Yeah.
And not to mention Scherzer and Buehler to start. I like the Braves matchup with the Giants a little better because I think the Braves bullpen is okay with the Giants bullpen. And I know Logan Webb has pitched his ass off. And he's like right there with Fried, maybe the best two guys going right now. But so that's going to be phenomenal, Fried against Webb. But the other thing is it won't be Fried with Webb because Webb's got to go in game 5, which means the Braves had to love that last night, how that went. That series is going 5 games because it means Webb's out of the way until at least game 2. So Fried's going to have to
game 1. If you get game 1, that's huge.
Yeah, you got to like Fried, not because the Braves didn't have to go to Milwaukee. They would have had to use Fried in game 5. Now they've got their game. They've got Fried going against the Giants' next guy. What is that coming? Whether that's Gossman or Disclafini, who got knocked around yesterday. You got to like the Braves in game 1, whoever they're facing, if it's the Giants.
Oh, I do. It's just, yeah. I mean, if you could get that first game, jump out ahead game 1, that sets the tone for the series. So missing Webb would be nice. I don't know who. I mean, yeah, you got to go free game 1.
And then Charlie will be on regular rest for game 2.
Charlie's ready game 2.
And then Ian Anderson's pitching great right now. His last 3 starts, he's been phenomenal. So, and at postseason, his ERA now, he's got 5 starts. His ERA is like a half a run.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like the Giants a little bit more if I'm the Braves. I like that matchup a little bit more, even though you're not the home field there. With them losing Brandon Belt, their lineup's not as good as it was. He's out still. So, Dodgers lost Muncy, but the Dodgers are so deep. And I think the Dodgers bullpen is a deciding factor in that because it's just so nasty and deep.
One after another.
Yeah. Yeah.
Training. I mean, the Braves got to training last year, but
Kelly,
Kelly's probably the most vulnerable, but he's still throwing 100 with a great slider.
And in a 7-game series, the Braves, I really like them 3-4 deep now. Mentor, if he pitches like that, I'll say 4 deep. But in a 7-game series, that could be taxed, if you got to go to the same guys every time. I mean, it's just we can't stress enough how big the difference it is this year, have a normal schedule than it was last year when you played 7 straight games. You'd have really not much chance at all this year against the Dodgers with these 2 bullpens being what they are in 7 games in 7 days. I like their chances, but I like the Braves' chances this year. I think they got at least, to be honest, I think they're not going to be favored probably by many, but I think they've got at least a 50-50 shot at either team. And I think they can win the thing against the Giants. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah, I do too. I think it's going to be tough, but I mean, this is when you look at it, if you want the World Series, you knew you're going to have to get past one of these two teams.
106, 107 win teams.
Yeah. But, again, it's like what you said is when you look at the Braves record winning 88, they sucked for most of the year.
And they've been as good as those two teams have been since the beginning of August.
Yep.
Yeah, since they got over 500. They haven't looked back. They had that 16-2 run. Different team.
I kind of like it too. If you go to San Fran to start, you can split with them and then take 3 games home.
Yeah.
If LA comes to your place,
yeah,
and splits with you, and you got to go play 3 in LA where you've struggled,
right? Yep.
That makes it really tough. Those 3 games in the middle are big, because if you can go to somebody's place and just split, you can take care of business at home.
And they will at least split. I'm confident of that, because they're not going to lose with Freed pitching the way he is.
Yeah.
And you come home and 3 games at Truist, the way the crowds are going right now, that momentum is going to build with each game.
Yep.
And if you win that first one, I mean, that crowds are really loud, and they're doing the chop with the lights turned off and everybody's got their phones doing the thing. It's intimidating, man. It is loud.
Yeah.
And everybody can say, yeah, we've been, the Giants and the Dodgers have played in intimidating environments all year. Those are the most hostile crowds. They hate each other and all that. But it's a different element when those lights go out and they're doing that chop thing, because they don't see that anywhere else. It's just different. It's an ominous sound when you got 40,000 doing that. Entirely different than it is when you got 18 or 20,000 doing it during the year. Kind of ragged. Half the people have their phones out. When 40,000 people are doing it and 35,000 of them have the phones out and they're doing that, it echoes. It's like, it's a trip, man. It's pretty good.
I heard that all the time when I was with the Braves, and you kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
But then when I came back with Oakland, I kind of got wrapped up in it. Like, shit, this is pretty cool. You know, it's like, this is an energy right now coming. Like this stadium feels pretty good about its chances. I mean, it hits you different when you're the away team. But I think the Braves have done a great job too with the Battery, kind of setting a party atmosphere.
Yeah.
More of an adult atmosphere.
People get there earlier. People get there earlier.
Get fired up for the game.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if it's great for fans to be trashed at the stadium, but they're definitely louder when they are, when they can get there and drink a little bit before the game.
Oh, they get there because before if you got to turn the field early,
you're just at the gate.
There's nothing. You're sitting in all you could do is sit at your car and tailgate. I mean, but there was nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing to go to around there. And people that get off work, and with the traffic in Atlanta, it was just logistically difficult.
Yep.
Because they made the mistake of never putting the MARTA station there and blah, blah, blah. But this place, when you got a 5 o'clock game or 1 o'clock game, people can get there 2 hours early for the 1 o'clock game. They could go get breakfast in the Battery. For a 5 o'clock game, they can go over to bars, restaurants, whatever, and you hang out. There's like a grassy area. It was fake grass, but there's an area outside. You could sit there, lounge, and the weather's perfect for these first 2 games, by the way. I mean, there's just a lot to do over there now. And there's 2 hotels in there now. There's like 4 in walking distance now, but 2 in the Battery, another one just outside. I mean, there's a lot of people staying there, where they also couldn't do that at downtown. You could not walk from downtown hotels. You could, but you didn't want to. And they're right there. I mean, a family could walk few hundred feet from the hotels there. So it's a different atmosphere. It's worked out. I didn't like to move to out to the burbs, but for these purposes, for postseason, man, it's a great atmosphere. And that's really, like you said, it's really fun to channel into it.
Yeah. And then just overall watching the playoffs this year, I think, part of what's made it so amazing is the crowd energy. It seems like every stadium's been loud.
White Sox were great. Their
White Sox crowd was locked in.
Yeah. Locked in. Red Sox crowd partying. They had a great atmosphere going.
Yep.
Yeah, and I tell you, Milwaukee was really loud too, man, especially with that roof closed.
Yep.
They were into it. When the Braves shut it, when Matzik shut him down with that strikeout, oh my God, dude, I'm not worried about the Yips anymore after he did that.
I know. I was thinking that too.
He's past that shit now.
He's in a good place mentally to be able to keep doing what he's doing. Because you always worry, if once that bug's in there, is it ever going to creep back out? But he's been in some crazy jams, crazy situations, throwing huge innings in the playoffs and cruise through it. I mean, I was thinking last night when he came in, now's a good time to go get another snack or something, because I'm feeling so confident about him.
Yeah.
I don't even feel like I have to watch his innings.
I tell you, man, when this guy's done pitching, he has got a job as a motivational dude, either one-on-one with people or speaking to people. But people that have anxiety and that kind of thing, I mean, he's got a story few other people in the world can tell about overcoming it to the degree he has. You know, people that worry about anxiety and they're going to their jobs and all this. This guy to be able to say, I had the yips. It almost wrecked my career. And I go out and pitch in front of 40,000 people now that want me to fail. And I succeed.
And I stay calm.
That's a pretty good story.
Yeah. Rick Ankiel's doing that too. He's the mental skill coach, I think, for the Nationals.
Yeah.
But you think about what having been through something like that, you know, the perspective it gives you to talk your way through stuff. You know, I mean, Matzik would definitely be great at that for pitchers struggling or just thinking too much, to try to help them tone that down and lock in.
So Freddie, last night, as Jason Stark had a really good his column today with all the facts and stats and all. He had some really good stuff on Freddie last night. And as Craig Counsell said, it was great player against great player. That's what we're here for. When Freddie faced Josh Hader there in the 8th inning, man, they brought in Hader, and it's still not clear. But after talking to Craig Counsell after the game, sounded like he was only going to. He wasn't necessarily thinking 2 innings with Hader. He just knew that was the heart of the order up right there. Yeah. He had to use his best guy then. But Hader has been a 1-inning reliever for 2 years. He hadn't been that two inning guy since 2 years ago. So probably a good chance he was only going to go an inning. But he had to use him there. And so he's facing the heart of the order, strikes out the first 2
on 4 pitches.
Freddie comes up. Hader throws him a slider. I mean, his slider is all but unhittable, but especially against lefties. And Freddie crushes a first pitch slider that he made the mistake of leaving it over the plate up a little bit. And Freddie crushed it and sent it to the center field seats. First left-handed home run off Hader this year. Only the second one in 2 years. And ironically, or coincidentally, the other one was by Freddie's best friend in baseball, Jason Hayward, last year with the Cubs.
You know, I was watching when he hit that ball. I wanted to know immediately if he'd ever given up a home run on a first pitch slider to a lefty. Because, you know, the thing with Hader is his fastball is just on another level. Nobody can hit his fastball. It's 97, 98. The angle he throws it with, the extension he gets, and the ride on it, everybody just swings through it. So when he throws his slider, you know, it looks like an unhittable pitch.
Right.
Because everybody has to respect his fastball so much. And that's why it shocked me that Freddie was able to hit a first pitch slider for a home run. I mean, I bet you when Hader threw that ball, it didn't even cross his mind that he could give up a hit on it. He thought he was just getting a free strike. And you do that when you have a really good off speed
get
pitch,
me over.
You're going lefty, you throw that get me over, it's a free strike 98% of the time. And he does that to get ahead of Freddie. And he's thinking, all right, I'm getting ahead. I'm 0-1. I'm going to expand a little bit, see if I get him to chase. He's got this whole plan, and he throws that first pitch, get me over, and he's down 1. You know, it's in the seats.
And Freddie is like such a cerebral hitter, the way Chipper used to be, how he not sets up pitchers, but how he thinks these things through in previous experiences. But there was only in the 9th inning of game 1 that he worked that walk off Hader. And then going back in May, he had that long at bat in that game where they almost came back in Milwaukee. They had that huge inning, and he had that long at bat against Hader in that game too. So Hader, like you said, is probably thinking, okay, let's say here we go again. We're gonna have another long AB head-to-head with Freddie, and he throws that boom. I mean, Freddie is just like, that bat is so quick and so short to the ball that he doesn't have to look for one pitch and like most guys do, you know, and against a guy like Hader and hope he gets it.
Well, it's one of two things. He's either, because he said in the interviews that he was just trying to see something up.
Right.
And sometimes
you believe him?
I don't know. I don't know if I do, because I would have to go back and look at that bats and see if he'd started Freddie off with first pitch slider a lot, and he decided to go up there and look for it. But, you know, you talk to Freddie in the dugout and you're like, what were you looking for? You ask him questions about his at bats. At least when I play with him, he'd be like, I was just looking for a white baseball I could hit.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if he doesn't want it going around the league that he sits on pitches, or either way, it's unreal that he did that, because either he was looking for it and got it, and he's that smart of a hitter and that ballsy of a hitter to sit slider against Hader, who has that great fastball, or he's just so damn good that he hung him a slider and he didn't miss it.
I'm going with the latter, dude.
I think so too. My gut tells me he's just that damn good that he got a pitch he could handle in the middle of the plate and hit it out of the park.
And I'm glad that at least he stopped with that tired. He used it for years and years, 5 or 6 years. what's your approach when you go up there? See ball, hit ball. He stopped with that bullshit because other people would tell, but too many other people, hitting coaches, teammates, and all that. Go, come on, man. Freddie's got a sophisticated approach when he gets up there, you know. Because I do believe he always tries to hit a line drive over the shortstop's head. I do believe him on that one, and he's good enough that when he gets a little under a ball, he can hit it out like he did last night. And that would be, if you follow that trajectory, it's pretty much over the shortstop's head. I mean, he's just amazing with the opposite field power and how consistently he hits line drives over there. Dero had a great thing this morning. He showed how they shifted him on that play. And they got everybody over here from the middle to over there. One guy over here, like to the left of where short should be. And then one guy just to the left of second base, and everybody else is over here. And Dero wrote, but that's not how Freddie sees the field. And he put the zone where Freddie looks at the field, which starts just to the left of second base. And it goes all the way out to the outfield. So Freddie's like, okay, put all those guys over there. Doesn't matter. This is what I'm trying to hit the ball. Now, a lot of times he's going to hit into the shift anyway, because he's going to pull some balls over there. But that's not what he's trying to do. He's not like Ted Williams, in other words, going, I'm so good, I'm going to hit. You can put 6 guys over there, and I'm still going to get base hits. I'm just going to hit line drives over there and still get hits. He's always trying to hit it the other way. So, but so Jason had last night. This is amazing. Braves franchise goes back to 1876. In the history of the franchise, there have been 2 times when a Braves hitter got a go-ahead hit to clinch any postseason series in the 8th inning or later. One was Francisco Cabrera to walk off the 1992 NLCS with the great Skip Carey call. And the other was Freddie last night. That's it, man.
It's so funny, too, because I started looking to the next inning. I'm asking, is Hader going to come back out? Who's up for the almost what he did the first 2 hitters, striking them out 3 and 4 pitches like they were just hopeless. You're like, well, you're thinking they got 1 or 2 free innings to try to score.
Right. And you're thinking even if Freddie gets on, maybe he'll walk Freddie, but he'll get the next guy out. Because they're not going to get a run against him. Yeah. Right. And will they dare use Hader for another inning? That's what a lot of Milwaukee fans were thinking too. Is he going to go back to using multiple innings?
I thought they would in that situation. I thought even if he hasn't done it all year, now's the time to ask him to do it. And if you bring him in the 8th, I don't know if that threw him off either, bringing him in earlier than he expected, but he didn't look off until Freddie hit that slider.
No. Yeah. I think Freddie made him look off. Here's a few other numbers that Jason had were great. You were talking about how good Hader is. That 127 opponents batting average this year, 193 slugging by left-handers. 127 opponents bat, 193 slugging. Lowest percentage against any pitcher in baseball who faced at least 200 hitters this year. 124 career average by left-handed hitters against him. Lowest by against any left-handed, lowest for any left-handed pitcher against left-handed hitters ever. He threw 228 pitches to left-handed hitters this year, 0 home runs. In his 5-year career, he's thrown nearly 400 sliders to left-handed hitters. 1 was hit for a home run. Cody Bellinger, April 21st, 2019. 88 were swung at and missed.
Telling you, man, it's insane that Freddie hit that pitch.
And in his career before Tuesday, he had faced 350 left-handed hitters, regular season and postseason. 150 strikeouts, 15 extra base hits, and 350 hitters. I mean, that's about as dominant as you're going to get that Freddie overcame last night with that rocket to center.
Lefty slider for a strike is a free strike. If you're Josh Hader, there's no chance you think he's going to do that with it. You think maybe I give up a hit, to left field or a slap single or something, but to get 400 feet into the left center gap for a homer, there's no way it even crossed his mind as a possibility.
Over the last 2 seasons, Hader gave up 2 extra base hits to left-handed hitters over 2 seasons. Yeah. Eric Cosmer doubled 5 months ago, and Jay Hayes homer September 12th, 2020. That was it, man. Freeman had a walk-off homer against Hader on a fastball May 18th, 2019. Nobody had ever hit 2 go-ahead homers against him till last night. Freddie's the first guy to do it.
No, he's been unhittable. You know, it's not like he's been pretty good. The dude's been unhittable since he came in the league.
So he's given up 8 go-ahead hits. Freddie's had 8 go-ahead hits, no situation. 2 of them now have been off Hader. How many other left-handed hitters in history can say they've hit 2 home runs off Hader? None. Nobody. Just Freddie.
Yeah.
So there you go. Anyway, so here's last night, Freddie interview was great. They had him and Will Smith in there together in the interview room. They brought the 2 of them in there together. And Freddie had some great comments. He was asked to walk him through that at bat. And this was pretty good. This is pretty good stuff from Freddie. He said, in those type of situations, like against him in my whole career, I just look location because he throws all those heaters up. Was I looking for an O slider, an OO slider up? No, I was just looking up. He threw 3 straight sliders to Dansby. So I kind of looked up and away in location, and he threw it there, and I was able to get it. So does that kind of answer your?
Yeah, and you know, I believe it too, because the whole time, everything he was saying about it is almost just like, I don't know how I did that.
Right. He said he had nothing. He wasn't thinking at all about 2019, that home run he hit off of him. Bowman asked him, did you kind of build off that though? And he said, no, the at bat I had against him in Milwaukee, talking about the other day, that walk, I saw him pretty well. I mean, I don't know if you can see Hader very well, but I was able to work a walk and work a full count and fouled off a heater 3-2. I saw some pitches and felt comfortable enough to work a walk. But in that situation, I'm just trying to get on base against him. If I had to work another walk, I was going to try to do it. But 3 straight sliders to Dansby. Andy threw a couple to Eddie Rosario in the 2 strikeouts in front of Freddie.
I don't know. Terrible on him.
Right. I don't know if he was going slider happy, but I just kind of looked up in a way to keep me from swinging at the slider down and away. And luckily he threw one up there.
Yeah. Well, as a lefty too, you started at him and it's a free strike. I remember the first time, and the first time I gave up a first pitch lefty slider home run was Prince Fielder, and I'll never forget it because it was so shocking to me. But you have these at bats against lefties, and it's like for so long it's just been a free strike. You started at him, spin it over the plate, and you got this free 0-1 count, and you're just ahead. Mm-hmm. And you go and do that against a guy that's as talented as Freddie. And I threw it to Fielder. I was like, get me over, and then I'm going to start throwing him the good ones.
Right.
And he put it 450 in the gap, and it was like, what the fuck? What just happened? I didn't even, how is that possible? How is this guy that good? And I guarantee you, when Freddie hit that ball off a Hader, it was like, he didn't even think they started battling yet. He's like, I'll get ahead with my free strike. I'm Josh Hader. I blow everybody away with the heater. Nobody touches my slider. I'm going to be aggressive. Started at him, get ahead. And if you look at it, it was on a tee. It was right down the middle. And I think that's where he aimed. I think he was just trying to get a free strike and jump ahead. And, like what Freddie's quote says is he wasn't necessarily sitting on that. He was conscious of it. But I think he's just so damn good and has such a nice quality compact swing and tries to shoot the ball the other way. He didn't go up there and try to pull Hader. If he tries to pull that pitch, he probably grounds out.
Right.
But he's just so damn good and so special. There's I bet you could name the players on one hand that could do that against a guy as tough as Hader on a first pitch slider in the entire game.
And Hader's reaction afterwards was the look of like, what the fuck? Like you just said, what just happened? Because he was like, he still had to look confident. He couldn't show that he was pissed, but he did the nervous twitch of his shoulders. And he was like, okay, all right. But you had the look of like, oh my God, what? Okay, let's regroup here. We're down now. But he never does. It never happens to him.
It's never happened before.
They didn't know how to react.
Yep. And if it has happened before, if you've done it against a guy and given it up, or, we used to always say in pitchers meetings before the meeting, they'd say which guys, they'd say, no get me overs to Cabrera or somebody that was known to go up there and sit slider or could handle it or possibly do damage. You'd say, no get me overs to this guy, no get me overs to that guy. And it changes your approach. When a guy will swing first pitch slider and do damage. I mean, Tellez did it to Inoa too. And I don't think he saw that coming. You kind of think it's a free strike. But when you hear that in those meetings and you go first pitch slider and a guy will swing and can do damage on it, then you try to throw a really good quality pitch there. And that helps the hitter because a lot of times you'll yank it or nibble a little bit and throw a ball. But Hader just thought it's a free strike, came out ultra aggressive, and Freddie's just too damn good, man. He was ready for it, hit it in the seats. And it blows my mind that he did that.
Freddie's reaction was priceless. I mean, I've seen Freddie play for his entire career, and I have never seen him quite that happy. I mean, he was ecstatic. He's usually so subdued. He's not one of these guys that jumps and does all this. He doesn't do it. The only time he ever does that is after they clinch a series. I mean, or they clinch a division. But he had a reaction going around. He looked 10 years younger running around the bases. He was smiling. He was doing this. He was doing this. He came out, did a curtain call. Yeah, they shoved him out there, and Heredia's out there going, this man. And Freddie's out there going, yeah. I mean, it was just, you just don't see that stuff from Freddie. So it was so much fun to see the unbridled joy as he's rounding third. Wash does the low five, and Freddie's just like, yeah, does it. And then there's like 6 guys outside the dugout. The next guy up, the guy on deck, but like 3 others. Jock Peterson's out there, and they're all high-fiving him. I mean, it was a moment, man. And you're like, we're still the 8th inning, but it was just, they could not help. Everybody was so happy for him. And obviously to get a lead against Hader, it was something else. And the crowd is just roaring. They're chanting, Freddie, Freddie. So it was quite a moment. Freddie was asked, what was going inside your mind as you were rounding the bases? He goes, there wasn't much going on. I was hoping I didn't fall over.
Yeah, he was floating.
He said, I had a lot of cool moments in my career, but so far I'm thinking that's going to top them right there. But hopefully that's not the last cool one. I've got a couple more in these playoffs.
Well, think about the weight on his shoulders too. He hadn't had a great series.
Right.
He'd had that play before they
4 walks and 1 or 2 hits.
Yep. And he had that play that, it was a tough play, but Freddie expects to make.
Yeah.
And you don't think about that, but that's weighing on him. That before that home run that Tellez hit, hard hit ball to first base, and it was a makeable play for Freddie, and he doesn't get it. Having a rough series, not making a play on that ball that cost him a run when Tellez went deep, that stuff's in the back of his head. That's weighing on him. He hits that ball and it's all erased immediately. And I mean, I'd love to be in those shoes and get to run around the bases like that, because I bet he couldn't even feel the ground.
That must be amazing. Yeah, I would fall. I would be like, I just lose control of my body.
Yeah.
But he said, what's it been like for you guys to be able to clinch the division? I asked him what to clinch the division at home and now clinch this at home with all the chants and all that. And he said a lot better than clinching to go to the NLCS in front of home fans instead of last year with no fans. Yep. Because last year they were partying, celebrating on the field with no fans in the crowd.
It's not the same.
No. And he said this was well worth it. They came out and supported us at 1:00 on a Monday yesterday, and they came out in full force tonight. Just unbelievable atmosphere. He said Milwaukee scored 2 runs. We came back with 2. They scored another 2. We came back. He said it's kind of a testament to our team the last 3-4 years. Just a pretty amazing ball game. He said losing Jorge a couple hours before the first pitch just kind of piled it on us this year. But this, what else can happen to this team? But this year, this team showed its resiliency and just came back and put up a great game.
They really did. That was just a great ending to the series.
I asked Will Smith, because he's sitting there, everybody's asking Freddie's questions. I asked Will Smith just how gratifying was it for the bullpen? It's kind of been maligned along with him specifically most of the year. How gratifying was it for them not to give up any runs other than the 2 off Inoa in the whole series? And he said, we always say bend, but don't break down there. And I thought we did a pretty good job working through traffic when we got guys on and never giving in and staying with Travis. Staying with Travis and the game plan and the guys behind us making plays. He always credits the defense, always.
Arnaud called a great pitch for Luke Jackson. Fastball away after he'd thrown a bunch of sliders of some of the stuff we've talked about, where you could kind of catch on that this guy was eliminating the fastball. And Luke just threw a belt high fastball away. Couldn't pull the trigger.
It's been, I think, one of the coolest things is what had seen the reaction to Luke Jackson this year. I mean, he was beaten up on social media up until midway through this year. He was still getting trashed. They were still like, yeah, just wait. Luke Jackson, regardless of what, and even on social media now, they love him. But at home crowds, Luke is one of the favorites, man. They chant Luke. They play the Star Wars theme when he enters because he's a nerd, as he says. He's a Star Wars nerd. But he enters and they play the Star Wars theme, and the crowd does the Luke like Bruce Springsteen's Luke. So to see him do it in the postseason and then come through, because I think there's still some doubters that are probably thinking Yeah, we've seen it from Luco. He's going to give it up one of these days. He just keeps going out there and dealing, man. He's a different pitcher than he was last year. He got himself in great shape, and he had said to us on the podcast, the fans make the huge difference to him. He just couldn't get the adrenaline going last year.
Well, it's so much different too. If you check your name online, first of all, athletes should never do that because people don't log in to praise you very often. They usually log in to vent how much you messed up their parlay or whatever they had going.
Yeah.
But when you're at the stadium, your only feedback last year was what you were hearing online and all that shit if you were paying attention to it. But when you're at the stadium, it's usually a totally different energy. Even when I was sucking when I was with the Braves, I'd still be at the games and people remembered what I did 5 years ago or 4 years ago and still love me for that. So you get to absorb that. And now when you got fans behind you cheering you on, instead of thinking, what's this dipshit going to say on Twitter if I mess this game up? It's so much. I'd say 90% of the fans are pretty rational. Right. And the 10% that aren't usually log online and talk shit. Yeah. But for him to have that, he's been a different animal. Even when he took over the closer's role, and it wasn't pretty, but he saved the team that year and carried the load for a long time. Had a little rough start last year and a rough go last year, but this year he's been good all year. And it's kind of crazy how long it takes as a reliever to earn back the trust. A 2-week stint of blowing games and sucking. Same with Will Smith. Yeah. He's had some action on the base pass, but people still don't trust him. Yeah. Even though he's been pretty lights out the last few weeks. It's crazy how long it takes to earn that trust again from a fan base as a relief pitcher.
And even for him, thank God, the reaction for the crowd is much different than it is on social media. He doesn't get booed when he enters the game or whatever, like he would be when he enters on Twitter. He's booed effectively. So Darno, by the way, asked Darno about what does he thinking when Freddie comes up in that situation. He's going, well, I'm not thinking he's going to hit a home run on a first pitch slider. I'm thinking he's going to do something good, but not a first pitch home run on a slider. But he said to see Freddie hit that and then the tongue come out, because Freddie did one of those. He said that was just like it made everybody so happy, man.
Well, he's their leader.
Yeah. He's there was a great quote from Austin afterwards they got the TV cameras, got him on the field, and he said, he's our captain. He goes, he's Freddie Freeman. He's the greatest player I've ever played with.
I can second that.
Freddie was asked Freddie about what stood out, because he said this moment stood above the others. What stood out this home run? And he goes, like it was obvious. He goes, we're going to the NLCS. That kind of stood out. He goes, he said he dreamed. You literally dream about that as a kid, clinching a playoff. So to have it happen, to have it finally happen for him to clinch a playoff with a home run is what you dream about. He said this team was kind of down all year, just trying to tread water, playing 500 baseball. Alex went out at the deadline and got us some guys, and it was a whole different team in the second half. He said, I think we played 600 plus winning percentage baseball in the second half. We've been feeling pretty good about ourselves. And they just fought back. And to get that home run in that moment and Will coming in and shut it down, that's kind of the top moment for me.
Yeah, and big that big that Will Smith came to pitch this series, because like we talked about earlier, if he blows that, I feel like after Freddie hits a homer like that and everything's up and everybody's fired up, if you blow that game, you got like 90% chance of losing that game and the series if you don't close it out right there.
Absolutely, that would have just been a disaster.
Yeah.
So, some guys had to just nut up, man. Repeat it. Multiple guys, and they did. Not one guy faltered that they were counting on. In Noah, you didn't know what you were going to get. You go a couple runs, but not one guy disappointed that needed to come through in the biggest moments.
Nope, and their 7-8-9 was lights out the whole series.
Yeah, and the defense was just like we said, just so good the whole series. Freddie was asked, you've been in a lot of playoff series. How different was this one? Just from how hard the runs were come by. He goes, we faced 3 straight all-star starters and all-stars in Burns, Woodruff, and Peralta. And we faced Lauer. We had a bounce back year. Who had a bounce back year? He was great all year. So runs were hard. And then you got Charlie Morton, probably the best big time postseason pitcher in the game. And you got Max Fried, who's done what he's done in the second half and all season. And Ian, you knew runs were at a premium. So Charlie gave us 3+ on 3 days rest. It's pretty amazing what he did. And I think we had like 8 or 9 runs scored total in the whole series coming into today. I think we tied that in one game, but runs were hard to come by. But then when they're hard to come by, we still pulled out 2 wins, and we were able to do it today.
Yeah, and huge that Charlie went on short rest. I was watching him in that first inning. Some of those curveballs were popping out. He just wasn't quite the same, but I mean, hats off to him for you could tell he was a little tired, but just battling and having balls and getting through that outing. Can't say enough about a guy being willing to come back on short rest and find a way to battle like that without his best stuff.
Yeah, especially a guy with the track record he has, with the postseason record that he has. You don't want to go mess it up by doing something you haven't done, at age 37. He'll be 38 in November, man. Yeah. He could have said, maybe 5 years ago, I'd love to have done that, guys, but I'm going to be 38 in November. But no, he's like, yeah, give me the ball.
I bet you he didn't even hesitate. I bet you he wanted it. He might have even asked for it.
It would have been entirely different if they send Noah out there and he give up 2 runs in the first inning, or they send Smiley out and he gives up. I'm not saying he would have. Maybe Smiley would have done well. I don't know. But it was the confidence that they had sending Charlie out there, especially after losing Soler and having Dansby hit leadoff. The confidence that gave them having Charlie out there was huge. I just think everybody went into the game with a different attitude than they would have if they'd sent a guy out there to struggle a little bit.
Yeah. Getting the game started like that is, you can't put a value on it.
Darno asked Travis about the LCS. He said, we feel very good heading into, was it Darno? Yeah, I want to make sure. Yeah. Darno said, we feel very good heading into the NLCS this year, regardless of who we're playing. We got a great pitching staff, 3 studs on the mound in the rotation. Shoot, all our guys are nasty. It's a blessing to work with all of them every single day. So we're going all very confident going in and just keep this thing rolling. Both those teams had over 100 wins. They had the best NL records. They're both great teams. We're looking forward to playing either one of them. It's going to be a hell of a series, a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to it. I mean, that's just a different attitude.
It is. And this series was great prep for that series. If they'd faced a team that just slugged it out with them and didn't have that great starting pitcher, or 3 starting pitchers and they won the games, 9-6, 8-5, things like that. You're not going to get that off these starting pitchers for the Giants and Dodgers, so facing those 3 horses that they faced and really getting some practice in it, squeezing across runs and executing and all that little stuff, that's going to help them in the next series too.
That's a great point, because last year they went in and faced the Dodgers after beating the Reds in 2 games in a 3-game series, that anomaly from last year. Slugging Reds team, they beat Trevor Bauer, but they won that game. And then they faced the Marlins in the second round and swept them. Yeah. And those Marlins, really good young pitchers, but that's a totally different animal than what they're facing. They were facing all these 20, 21-year-old pitchers and a lineup that was shaky. So to beat the Brewers going into face it, they're going entirely different without questions about, but who'd you beat to get here to face? Now you're facing the Dodgers.
Yeah. And Milwaukee's offense didn't have the best series. They struggled with runners in scoring position. Right. I don't know who you give the credit to. I think that the pitching staff for the Braves definitely deserves a lot of credit for buckling down and making all those situations hard on them. Dansby made some big plays. Defense made some big plays. But overall, they had to play that same type of series where you got to come up with big hits and make big pitches. Yeah. And especially the bullpen, that's where so many of these games are decided, especially when you bring those horses in and get to the 5th and it's 0-0. You have one reliever that comes in and he's off, gives up a 3 spot. That's the game right now. And not a single one of them did it.
Hey, how about before we go, how about the previous day, Ian Anderson? I don't think, man, enough attention has been paid to what that kid did. I mean, I say kid, he's still really young. But everybody knew Fried and Charlie Morton can match up with those 2 guys. But Ian, had an up and down year because he had injuries. He had the shoulder strain after the All-Star break, and he had pitched really well in his last 2 starts coming in. But you're still going, okay, let's see him do it again. And he went out and dealt, man. I mean, his changeup was, he held them to 2 hits, 1 run in 6 innings in May in Milwaukee. But he went through that thing in July where he missed 6 weeks with the shoulder thing. So he comes in Monday, and after 4 innings, he had 4 strikeouts and 10 whiffs, 4 strikeouts with the changeup. and 10 swings and misses with the changeup through 4 innings. He ended up going 5 innings. He allowed just 3 hits, no walks, huge. Hit a batter, struck out 6 in 84 pitches, including 51 strikes. And afterwards asked Counsell what the big thing was, what made him tough. He said it was the changeup for sure, Counsell said. He said, I think we quickly adjusted and understood what he was doing, but he was a little scattered. He was a little scattered with the fastball, but he did get enough first pitch strikes. And when you get the first pitch strikes, when you're down in the count already, but he threw a ton of good changeups and enough strikes with the other stuff to kind of keep us off balance, because the changeup was good. I thought there were times when the hitters, they were looking for it and we just didn't hit it. So they were looking for it and still couldn't hit it.
He's got one of those changeups. He's got one of those pitches that's so good. People can be looking for it and still not, I think his arm action comes into play. It's a different arm action. He's able to spin the changeup from that same slot. Hitters have a hard time reading it. And he did an incredible job just keeping him off balance. Because I saw him, he'd make mistakes and they'd be a second late on the fastball, fouled off into the net. And then he'd go back to the changeup. But you could see the Brewers hitters trying to adjust, trying to think along with him. And what makes it so tough is throwing that first pitch strike with any of 3 pitches. He's ahead in the count all the time. And then they don't know if he's going to stay with it or come back. And it makes his fastball so much better because it's already sneaky. Yeah. And he's mixing it in sporadically instead of just coming at him. He pitched his ass off. There's guys that have good starts and you watch them and you're like, well, he just had too good of stuff. Corbin Burns is throwing 98 cutter. He puts it wherever he wants, but everybody knows he's throwing that. It's just that good of a pitch. He doesn't have to pitch as much. Ian pitched his ass off. He mixed in 3 pitches at any count, anytime, and he could throw them all for strikes. That makes it so hard on the hitters to know what to look for. And you could just see it with Milwaukee. They were just guessing the whole start, which is, obviously where you want to be.
He had the 6-week post All-Star stint with the shoulder on the IL. Then he had a 4.66 ERA, and the 6 homers was a real problem. 6 homers in 19 1/3 innings in his first 4 starts back. But in his 3 starts since then, including Monday, Ian Anderson's 3-0 with a 1.50 ERA, and he's allowed 8 hits, 3 runs, and 4 walks with 16 strikeouts in 18 innings. 3-0, 1.50 in 3 starts. Big games. So that's a huge factor for them knowing that he's back where he was, because going into the postseason, you didn't know if he was going to be ready, be back where he was. So when you got a number 3 that can match up with their
3 strong is so much better than 2 strong. Going into a series, having 3 starters that you feel really damn good about it's such a difference, because if you stack up against a team like the Dodgers or Giants and you battle and maybe you split with Charlie and Fried, but you go to that 3 spot. I mean, how many teams did you see in the postseason having a bullpen game in the 3 spot? And none of those teams won.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a totally different animal to have to face another really good starter and then have those options to play with. You don't have a burnout pen. You got options to play with. Are we going back to Charlie on short rest, Fried on short rest? Yeah. Or are we up 3-1 and we can let those guys rest and we know we're going to get one out of them in 6 and 7. It just gives them so much more flexibility of how they want to attack teams, knowing Ian's going to be what he is.
Here's what he is now in 5 postseason starts, including 4 last year as a rookie, after he'd only made 6 regular season starts last year. 5 postseason starts, he's 3-0 with an 0.76 ERA, including 4 scoreless starts. Yep. He's only allowed 14 hits, 10 walks, with 30 strikeouts in 23 2/3 innings in the postseason. Only 2 runs against him came in the 3rd inning of Game 7 in last year's NLCS against the Dodgers. And that was his 10th overall start of his career, by the way.
Yep.
This kid's special, man. People forget about him because of what Fried's doing this year. But Ian Anderson is special.
He is. He's got balls, too. He didn't crumble when they got 2nd and 3rd, no outs on him. He winds up getting out of the situation.
No doubt.
I mean, it's a lot of guys. You can just feel that energy, that momentum swaying, and you start trying to do too much. He just kept making pitches.
Well, we knew he had balls when he came out in his major league debut and outpitched Garrett Cole and took a no-hitter like 6th inning against the Yankees.
Yeah, in an empty stadium, though. Now that he's doing it in these big playoff starts, it confirms it even more for me.
Which is huge, because you don't know what's going to happen with Soroka. You hope he comes back at elite level, but to know that you've got Fried, Morton, and Anderson for next year. Yeah, you can fill in the blanks beyond that. Yeah, you're sitting pretty. So All right. Well, we didn't even get into Jock Peterson, but so much has been said. I think we've said enough. But man, this guy. He's been such an impact on this team. And now the pearl thing, dude. There's grown men wearing pearls at the games. I mean, a lot of them, and little kids with like 3 and 4 strands of pearls over the shirts, over their jerseys. It's a phenomenon. There's a run on them at the jewelry stores in Atlanta. Pearls.
That's how it starts. If you hit a 3-run go ahead homer in game 3, people, they'll get behind whatever you're doing.
How big was that, man? Jesus, this guy. He has got the clutch gene. Anybody that argues that there's no such thing, just watch Jock Peterson. Look at the numbers. The numbers do not lie.
Yep.
This guy's already got 11 postseason home runs.
They call it Jocktober for a reason. I felt good about him coming up, but that's that thing, we talk about all the time, is not letting the game speed up or be too big for you. And he just seems to have that gene. He has that ability to just stay calm and have good at bats, battle, treat it like any other at bat. And, like I said, it's not easier said than done, but he seems to, even when he gets out, like the lefty he faced yesterday in a big at bat.
Yeah.
He faced bastard pitches that whole at bat, found a way to just stay alive and tap it to shortstop and beat out the double play. A lot of guys, they just get overmatched there, try to do too much, and it's a punch out. But he just seems to have really good at bats and always be calm in the biggest situations. And it's not something I'm sure you can teach.
No. Hey, get this. In his last 46 postseason games, the guy includes 25 starts, beginning with the 2017 World Series. He's hit 312, 34, 109, 5 doubles, 10 homers, and an OPS of about 1,000. He's got 11 career postseason homers in 173 plate appearances in a postseason.
Yeah.
Okay, for some context, that's 11 homers and 173 plate appearances. Chipper Jones, 13 postseason homers and 417 plate appearances in the postseason. Andrew Jones, who hit the 2 in his first World Series game. Andrew Jones, 10 postseason homers and 279 plate appearances. David Ortiz, Big Poppy, seemed like he hit one every game in the postseason. 17 postseason homers and 369 plate appearances. And finally, Derek Jeter, who played like 2 seasons worth of postseasons, basically. 20 postseason homers and 734 plate appearances in career plate appearances in the postseason. Again, Jock Peterson, 11 postseason homers and 173 plate appearances.
It's amazing. It's amazing. His interview was funny too. When they asked him, how he hit.
How'd you hit that pitch?
Pretty good player.
I'm a pretty good player. I hit it out of the park. He's the best, man.
Guys they know the perfect time to kind of mix in something real cocky like that and say
he does.
That makes everybody laugh.
Like Josh Donaldson did. Yep. He had that perfect timing.
Yep. I saw Dansby make that comparison and say he's Doc day in, day out. And
so much like each other in that regard. Like Josh Donaldson at his introductory press conference to announce his contract. Yeah. When he asked him what he could bring to the Braves. First time he's like, he said, check the back of my baseball card. That's what I can bring. I think that's what I can bring to the Braves.
Yeah. And you got to have that confidence though to succeed at that level.
They both do. Ultimate swagger.
Some guys tone it down and other guys know the perfect time to drop. Just check my baseball card.
Other guys
I'm acting nice, but check it.
Yeah. Other guys aren't worried about not living up to it and having people going, you cocky. They're not worried about it. They have so much self-confidence. They're like, I'm gonna say it before I go out and put the gauntlet down. I'm gonna go out and do it, walk the walk, then talk the talk, whatever.
That's why I never talk shit. I saw what Tepera said.
Yeah.
After that series, I was like, might as well put money on the Astros right now. They go out and score 10 the next game after that. Cause you don't, in baseball, it has a funny way of humbling you. And anytime you act cocky, it feels like things all fall apart for you because, that's in the back of your head too. Like I said this last time, now I got to back it up. And what's going to be the response if I give it up here and don't live up to this? And then there's other guys with the balls to say it anyway, and they know they can back it up. And it seems like he has that confidence.
And a mistake that he made was he damned the whole team.
Yep.
The Astros without any evidence or any reason. I mean, look what they did on the road last night.
Nothing good was going to come of that.
Nobody has said this year that they think the Astros are still cheating. But anyway, you better have some proof. Thing is, when Jock, it almost always is like confidence about himself. In other words, if I fuck up, this is going to be on me. But I'm saying This is what I do. And the
Yep.
same thing with JD, you know, they rarely made it where teammates were like, thanks a lot, dude. They never set the team up to fail by saying something that, you know, would make it uncomfortable or give the other team ammo or whatever. Jock's like about himself, you know, he's like, I'm a pretty good player. I hit it out, you know. JD's like, check the back of my baseball card. You know, he's not putting the team, making his teammates uncomfortable.
No, and he knows he personally can back it up. But
right. And if he doesn't, he'll take the consequences. He's all right with that.
Yep. And, you know, you saw the Red Sox use that. It's just funny how you'd think that a team, I guess it's a distraction almost from the standard and the pressure set on you to win the series when your opponent does something to piss you off. And now it's even more, you know, fuck those guys.
Right.
When the Rays, I guess, told the clubhouse attendants to get that champagne ready after they won that first game in Boston.
Yeah.
And then they were eating popcorn in the dugout.
Saying, we got a 5-run lead. Let me eat my popcorn.
Every Red Sox player.
Yeah.
They noted that. And that's that extra fuel where it's like, it doesn't make any sense because you'd think that these guys were already playing a certain way. It's already the biggest games of the year. But when you give them that nice distraction and somebody else to focus on and want to beat them for this reason,
right?
It seems like just a different motivator where guys are able to take it to the next level when they're totally pissed at you and they want to wreck your season now, try not to blow their own.
I think that comes across as you're taking it for granted and your arrogance is you're a better team than we are. You're so good that, hey, we're up 5-0. How many popcorn?
It's over. Yeah.
You got to know how to push the envelope with those, like the celebrations Josh Donaldson did, for instance, with the umbrella. I never felt like you were telling the other team, we're so good that we're going to relax. And it was just like, I'm a goofball. I'm having fun. I'm a badass. Yeah. I'm going to do this umbrella because I'm the bringer of rain. And the same thing with Jock, you know, with the things he does. But it never dismisses the other team or makes the other team feel like, you know, we're just better than you. You know, you got to know how to do it. And that was just dumb what he said about them cheating, and it was dumb what Nelson Cruz said about eating popcorn with a 5-run lead. You know, or bring the champagne. You know,
baseball gods don't like that stuff.
No.
If you're a baseball player, you got to live in fear of the baseball gods 24/7. You know, try not to do anything that's gonna bring you bad karma or bad mojo. And I think both of those teams kind of got ahead of themselves and baseball, man, it catches up with you every single time.
Never get ahead of yourself. Oh man.
In baseball, you can't.
No, it can change so fast. The next day starting pitcher. That's all momentum is.
Yep.
So you better have a few of them. All right. Well, this is going to be good, man. We'll find out late Thursday. Actually, it'll be early Friday morning. We're going to find out who the Braves are playing next, whether we're flying out to San Francisco or having the Dodgers fly here. But either way, if you're a Braves fan, you're loving this. You're eating this shit up because 4 months into the season, a lot of people were saying Alex should sell. There were a lot of people saying Alex should sell and aim to next year and get Acuna back and all that. And instead, look where they're at. Miraculously, they're going to face a team that won 107, 106 games during the season. And I feel better about their chances than I did a year ago when they had Acuna.
Yep.
And that's not to disparage Acuna. That's nothing about Acuna. He's be the best player on this team if he was here. But they're a better team. They're deeper. Yep. They got more confidence. They're playing better. And they got better starting pitching and experienced starting pitching.
And they've been through some shit.
Yep.
I mean, that's a big factor too.
A lot of adversity they've overcome again and again and again.
Yep.
So it's going to be fun, man. I think it's going to be a good series. Regardless of the outcome, I think it's going to go at least 5, but I think 6 or 7 games the series is going to go. I can't see it in 5. I think, and I'm not going to pick it yet till I find out who the team is. But like I said, I like the Rays' chances against the Giants. I really do.
Yeah.
And they'll give the Dodgers 6 or 7 games, just like they did last year, for sure. And I said going into last year, nobody picked the Braves. And I said on the podcast I said, I'm picking the Dodgers because they've just got so much more talent, but it's not going to surprise me if the Braves go 6 or 7 games with them. Yep. This year, I'll go further beyond that. So we'll see who they're playing. We'll do another one of these on Thursday or Friday.
Cool.
All right, everybody. 7:55 is real. Enjoy the playoffs.
Good stuff.